are honored to be joined here today by Dr. Joseph Maroon, a world-renowned neurosurgeon who spent most of his career, correct me if I'm wrong, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, an Ironman athlete, I believe 8 times Ironman athlete. Sounds like 8 too many for me. And author and a leading voice on brain and health and longevity. Dr. Maroon, thank you for joining us today. We're excited to talk about your journey, your outlook on aging, and any habits that you want to share, to help us all live longer, stronger, and healthier lives. With that, is there anything that you want to, start off with?
Thank you very much, Zach. I look forward to our conversation.
Amazing. Well, great. So the first question I have for you, Dr. Maroon, is, throughout your life, you've lived many different chapters from being I believe you were the neurosurgeon, the primary neurosurgeon for the Pittsburgh Steelers for 40 years. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been an Ironman athlete, an author, a wellness advocate. I guess what throughout this journey inspired you to, keep reinventing yourself and to not slow down like many do throughout the aging process?
Well, I've been very fortunate in my life. I grew up in Bridgeport, Ohio, mining. You had 3 choices if you finished high school, and even if you did, you worked in the steel mills, the coal mines, or you got an athletic scholarship. And I was very fortunate to get an athletic scholarship to Indiana University, as you know, the #1 team in the United States now,
Go
for the
Hoosiers.
first time in its history. But I was able to play football there, and throughout my life, I've been curious, competitive, and also caring. And when I was going back to college, actually, I read a book by Khalil Gibran, The Prophet, and in it he said, "We give but little when we give of our possessions. It's when we give of ourselves that we truly give." And I've been very blessed throughout my career as a neurosurgeon to be able to give back, so to speak. So with the curiosity and the giving back, I realized that life is not a curve of adolescence, middle age, old age, and death. It's a series of renewal.
Yeah.
The prophet Isaiah said, "He who trusts in the Lord shall be renewed. He shall rise up on wings like an eagle. He shall run and not be weary, and walk and not be fatigued." And it's the renewal aspect that our lives are not a straight line. It's a wiggly line, and it's impacted by serendipity and also by life quakes, unexpected good things and bad things. And it's how we respond to those. It's the only way to develop resilience, actually, but it's how we respond to those that really show the actual trajectory of our lives. And at this, as an octogenarian now, looking back, it's in giving that we receive, and it's, the purpose of life is a life of purpose, and it's finding that purpose, particularly at any age, but as we get into our older years, those who don't have a good purpose, a raison d'etre, a reason to live, depression, anxiety, futility. So it's important to maintain that curiosity and look for ways to give back, help others. And I've been very blessed at this time in my life to be doing some really remarkable research on Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and traumatic brain injury. I'm having more fun now in my 80s than I did actually when I was operating. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. The things that we're doing at the University of Pittsburgh. I guess that's a long-winded answer to your question of maintaining interest in what we're doing and a good purpose.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty amazing that you can say that, you're having more fun doing what you're doing now than you had, during the peak of your amazing career as a neurosurgeon. And I think that kind of segues into like another question, which is a lot of people fear the process of aging. They feel like, they might be forgotten, their body might give up on them. They might just, not have the energy to go in day out. You are a pretty big proponent of advocating that, aging is not something to fear. It's something to train for. What does, the idea of training for aging, mean to you in practical terms? And I know that you mentioned hyperbaric chambers, like these different types of therapies, these different practices that people can, incorporate into their lifestyles. Like, how does that, I guess, like, what's the why behind that, and how does that work?
Well, an excellent question. And I'm going to digress just a second to mention Coach Chuck Noll. Coach Noll was the Steeler coach back in the 70s and 80s. And he said, football is not complicated. Whoever blocks and tackles the best wins the game. Healthy aging is not complicated. It's 5 things. Number 1, your diet. Number 2, exercise. Number 3, controlling stress. Number 4, avoiding environmental toxins, alcohol, drugs, etc., and getting sleep. Those 5 factors are factors that prevent Alzheimer's disease and dementia, and also enable one to attain peak performance. The problem is doing it. We know what the right things are, but it's doing it. It's motivation. So those are the things that I discuss in my book that I wrote, entitled Square One: A Simple Guide to a Balanced Life, and what I recommend.
Awesome. And sorry, just one quick pause. It looks like we lost your video. I don't know if anyone is there to check what. Oh, there we go. You're back.
Okay.
It was just a quick 30-second blip. But that was great. So I feel like, that's amazing advice. I think one thing that people struggle with is they know they need to do these things. They know that they should do these things, whether that's, going on a walk, whether it's changing their diet, whether it's cutting out alcohol or sugar. There's all of these things that I feel like people, know they should do, but the biggest challenge is simply just taking that step and doing it for one day, stacking it to 2 days, 3 days a week, making it become a habit. I guess one question, and this is kind of focused on something that you're an expert in, which is burnout. I feel like people get that paralysis where they can't get themselves over that hump to just start that good habit. And this is something that you talked about previously in your work, and you've managed to turn your experiences of burnout, of that struggle, into, fuel for future growth. I guess, what would you tell someone who, kind of feels like they've lost that vitality for life, that's, struggling to find their purpose? Yeah.
Bruce Feiler's an author who wrote a book and discussed life quakes. And he interviewed over 200 people, all 50 states, and he found that everyone at some time in their life has 2 to 3 major cataclysmic events that turns their life upside down. A parent that dies, a child that tries to commit suicide, an overdose, a broken leg, a hip, an accident. He calls these life quakes. And everyone is going to have 2 to 5 life quakes in their life, at minimum. I had my life quake when I was about 41 years old. My father died suddenly of a heart attack. My wife left with our children for good reason. And I had to quit neurosurgery. I was chief of neurosurgery at the University Hospital. All of these things happened in the course of 1 week. And I became pathologically depressed and non-functional. And I literally moved into a farmhouse and worked in a dilapidated truck stop that my father bequeathed to my mother that was heavily mortgaged. I went from being a neurosurgeon at the university doing awake brain surgery to filling up 18-wheelers and pumping gas and flipping hamburgers. I did that for a year. It was a life quake. And how do you overcome these kind of things? psychotropic agents, psychotherapy are all recommended, of course. What saved my life was two things. Number one, the banker who held the mortgage on the truck stop called me one day and said, "Joe, we need to go for a run." I think he wanted to see if I'd be alive long enough to pay off the mortgage. We went down to the high school track and I made it around 4 times and said, never again. But that night was the first night I slept in about 4 months. So I went back the next day and I did 1.25 miles, then 1.5 miles, and then 2, 3. Then I learned to swim and I got a bike and cross-trained. And I entered a 10-man triathlon, very short distance. But I subsequently realized that I was rebalancing my neurotransmitters in my brain. I was elevating my serotonin without drugs. I was getting dopamine increase. I started to feel good. I lost 20 pounds of weight that I'd put on. And in addition to that, it led me to the Ironman distance triathlons that you mentioned. And I say that not to boast, because it saved my life. I wouldn't be talking to you today if I hadn't taken that run around the high school track, and then also got back to my spiritual foundation, my religious beliefs, and got back to being a practicing Catholic. Those two things led to changing my diet and also getting better sleep, losing weight, and no drugs were needed, no alcohol, tobacco, or etc. So that's kind of my story. And again, if I hadn't taken that run around the high school track, I can tell you I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing story. I feel like you could make a Netflix documentary just out of those years of your life where it seems like you really pulled yourself out of what could have been a dark place, and that probably was a dark place at the time. And I think, listening to your body is something that a lot of people, need to learn to do. Having that mind-body connection, it sounds like that's kind of what flipped the switch for you that day. Is kind of realizing that even though those 4 laps around the track didn't feel great at the time, that it was exactly what you needed to kind of remind yourself that, the human body is a miracle and that it can do these things, and that
yeah. Zach, a point I want to emphasize there is we know the mind can make the body very sick. Ulcers, cardiac issues, irritable bowel syndrome. What most people don't appreciate is the body can heal the mind. When you do aerobic and resistance exercises, various neurotransmitters and chemicals are released that have a profound effect on our mood, on our feeling, on our ability to function. So the body can heal the mind, which is something that I want to emphasize for the audience.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I think you briefly brought up your Ironman endeavors, and I think that's one of the coolest things, about your story is, doing one Ironman is something that 99.9% of people will never be able to say that they've done. But completing 8 of them, I think that's like a testament to your commitment to,
it might also be a testament to my OCD.
Well, it still worked. Whatever caused it, it got you to complete 8 Ironmans, which I'm sure is no small feat. And if I'm not wrong, you completed your last Ironman in 2013. Is that right?
76.
76. And was that okay? So was that in 2013 that you completed it?
I was in Hawaii. I've been doing half Ironmans and Olympic distance races since. At 85, the spirit is willing, but the body is weak.
Yeah.
The frame is cracking, and the windows are cloudy a little bit, and this and that. But I'm still competing and still working out daily.
Yeah, don't worry. You've already proven yourself. I think no one can say you didn't push yourself hard enough. And I guess with that, That is a tall order, preparing for those, completing them, and also the recovery aspect. I'm sure your body doesn't feel amazing the day after, the weeks after. But I guess what has kind of your approach been, or what have you learned through those processes regarding fitness, recovery, and how has that evolved over the years? It sounds like you're a huge proponent of hyperbaric chambers, which if I'm not wrong, that's basically exposing the body to higher altitude.
Yeah, well, for many years, one of my primary focuses in my career was managing individuals with concussions and post-concussion syndrome. Being with the Steelers and various colleges and high schools, University of Pittsburgh, I've seen hundreds of patients with concussions, and most of them get better. Some don't, and they have what's called the post-concussion syndrome. They have memory impairment, behavioral disorders, can't sleep, can't really, have difficulty with headaches and other things. And when they failed all therapy, about 8 to 10 years ago, I started sending them to a hyperbaric chamber for hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And the parents would come back and say, "You've given me my son back, you've given me my daughter back," when everything else failed, including drugs. So 4 years ago, I myself went to Florida to the Aviv Hyperbaric Center, which is the only one like it in this country. There's one in Tel Aviv and one in Dubai, but they have multi-place chambers, and up to 14 people at a time can be in these chambers with atmospheric pressure up to 2 or 3 atmospheres, breathing 100% oxygen, which is what hyperbaric oxygen therapy is. And what this does, it is an anti-inflammatory, and we can talk about inflammation. It's an anti-inflammatory. It increases new stem cell formation, and it also increases a compound in the brain called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. And what this does, this factor molecule creates new brain cells, literally new brain cells, new synaptic connections where the brain cells come together, and also enhances neuroplasticity, the ability to converse like we're doing with huge amounts of information and then being able to articulate it in a somewhat seamless way. So I went through the chamber for 60 dives myself and published a couple papers that if you go to my name, Joseph Maroon, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, they'll come up on Google. And I documented my own performance before and after cognitively, doing neurocognitive tests. And also I did a triathlon before and after. And I was able to enhance my VO2 max and also my anaerobic threshold. And it corresponded to the time I improved in the triathlon before and after. So it was pretty objective. And also did MRIs of my brain, SPECT scans of my brain, and neurocognitive testing, and published this in a Frontiers of Neurology peer-reviewed journal. So yeah, I'm clearly a believer in enhancing performance, enhancing healing, and healing the brain as well as the extremities.
Amazing. And I know that you briefly touched on the role that inflammation kind of plays in a lot of chronic pain, disease, whatever it may be that someone's struggling with, and kind of being at the root of the aging process. It can vastly accelerate someone's aging process. I guess, are there any other, besides, that if someone doesn't have access to hyperbaric chamber or hyperbaric therapy, is there anything that they could incorporate, like realistically on a day-to-day basis, to help them reduce the inflammation in their body?
The most significant, the most important, and the best documented anti-aging thing, in quotes, is aerobic activity and resistance exercises, weights, bands, and you don't have to be a triathlete. Just walking, aerobic activity, movement. These activities, again, increase those molecules that literally heal the brain, heal the heart, heal the body. Exercise is the most important anti-aging thing someone can do whenever, daily, or at least 4 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week. That, and then there are various supplements, depending on your age. That is a whole new conversation that I think are realistic and wise to take. Fish oil is very important. Omega-3 fatty acids is a natural anti-inflammatory. Turmeric, again, a very important molecule with vitamin D3 and other agents. We're doing a study now at the University of Pittsburgh, and well, we've shown with magnetic resonance spectroscopy, which is measuring the chemicals in the brain, that there's a deficiency of glutathione in the brain in patients with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and also MCI, mild cognitive impairment, and we believe in traumatic brain injury. So we're doing studies and we will be using a specific supplement to replace that if we document, as we hypothesize, there's a deficiency in these patients. So that's kind of a long-winded response.
Awesome. No, that's great information. I really appreciate it. I feel like the supplements, those are something that a lot of people are looking to incorporate, getting blood testing where they're deficient, understanding how they can help their body just get back to health, and homeostasis, whatever you may call it. And so I think that's great advice. All of those things, just daily exercise, walking after eating. Those are all things that we always recommend. Those little things that can just kind of make you feel 1% to 2% better every day. And people need to understand that, the healing process it's a journey. It's not going to happen overnight. It's about forming good habits, and staying consistent with them. So I appreciate that. And I guess, to kind of segue into our second to last question, a lot of the people that we talk with that are over the age of 65, they oftentimes feel like it's too late for them, or that they're already behind the curve, and that, the changes they make aren't going to be able to affect them quickly enough, or it won't matter for their situation. And that's something that we kind of struggle with explaining to them, that, the changes they can make will still make their day to day, their week to week, their month to month better and more enjoyable. I guess for you, are there any type of, specific to diet recommendations that you would recommend to someone that's just looking to, make those changes in their lives?
Yeah, obviously there are over 100 different diets. If you Google that, I've kind of evolved to the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah.
And highly plant-based, occasional beef, a lot of fish, and for the omega-3 fatty acids that we mentioned, particularly salmon, particularly wild Alaskan salmon, not farm-raised salmon, and but high in vegetables, nuts, legumes, and a lot of water. Basically minimal, if any, alcohol. The recent data has shown, particularly in elderly people who already have a deficient number of neurons in their brain, that alcohol, particularly in moderate to heavy doses, is neurotoxic. It can affect the neurons very, very substantially. And so that type of a diet is one that I use every day, and occasional intermittent fasting, I think, has some scientific basis for it. Getting enough protein. Sarcopenia is something that happens to all of us at over 40. And so adequate protein daily with every meal, if possible, is something that I suggest.
Amazing. Thank you. And then for the last question, through this conversation, it's apparent to everyone listening that you've had an amazing career, an outstanding career, devoting yourself to medicine, to science, to understanding the brain and understanding how to live healthier, longer lives. there's a lot of exciting things going on in the world of aging, age tech, different types of research. I guess, is there one or two things that, you're most excited about with the future of aging research in that outlook?
Yeah, I think that what's happening in stem cell technology and development, the Yamanaka factors that turning back the genes, so to speak, that David Sinclair's doing at Harvard. I think I know David, he's a brilliant scientist and is making very great contributions. And quite frankly, when we were talking about, the purpose of life is a life of purpose. What I'm incredibly involved with now, we recruited Dr. Pravat Mandal, who was the former director of the Indian National Brain Research Institute. And he's now in our Department of Neurosurgery at the University of Pittsburgh. And we're collaborating daily on studies looking at patients with Parkinson's disease, and also former NFL players, Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, people who have had repetitive head injury, repetitive head hits, which can lead to traumatic encephalopathy, degenerative of the brain. AD, PD, and TBI, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and traumatic brain injury, all have a common genesis, which is oxidative stress. The free radicals in our brain are not countered by enough antioxidants. So your brain oxidizes. So if you leave an apple out overnight, Zach, what color does it turn in the morning?
It's going to have those bruises on it. It's going to turn red or darker. It's going
to turn brown.
Yeah.
It oxidizes. Our brains oxidize as we get older. And glutathione is the primary antioxidant in the brain. So if we don't have enough antioxidant, the free radicals destroy the mitochondria, the DNA, the cellular membranes, and lead to neurodegeneration. So I hope we can speak maybe in 6 months to a year when we start enrolling patients in the next month or so, actually, at the University of Pittsburgh. And for your audience, patients with early Parkinson's disease, we have a grant by the Chuck Knoll Foundation to study traumatic brain injury, and also a grant from very generous, appreciative patients to study patients with Parkinson's disease. So somebody with early Parkinson's disease, we would very much pay to come to Pittsburgh to have a non-invasive magnetic resonance spectroscopic image of their brain. And if they're deficient, we would put them on a special precursor of glutathione and follow them for at least a year and rescan and restudy. So that's what keeps me going.
That's actually all of that research and all those pieces of advice are great, and I really appreciate it. And it's actually timely because one of our advisors on our team was just last weekend in Philadelphia, so in Pennsylvania, for a Parkinson's event. So I will definitely tell him about the research that you guys are doing, and I'll try to articulate it as well as I can.
You're obviously extremely informed and educated yourself. I don't know what your background is, but I can tell you're very well informed. And if you send me your email address, I'll send you the papers and the information and the studies we're doing to even inform you more.
I would love that, and I really appreciate it. And Dr. Maroon, it's honestly been a pleasure just to have someone like you come and talk to us and share all of your insights and your life journey and all the advice that you've given. I know that it'll go a long way in helping the people that we share the information with. So thank you again for your time. And hopefully we talk to you again soon. And I'm excited to receive that information on the research as well.
Very good, Zach. My pleasure. Thank you, sir.